But when I'm reading this to you each week, I'm giving it to you because I really mean it, and this really is what the whole show has been built around. So I hope you'll bear with me as I share it with you again this week. All of God's children are endowed with extraordinary purpose and ability. I am on a quest to help as many as possible. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Many as possible in fully realizing their divinely inspired potential. Disposing of false narrative and embracing genuineness inspires clarity of purpose. My role is to help overcome self-imposed limitations while in realizing one's spiritual potential. And folks, more important than ever now, I want to tell you about Claremont Pharmacy. Dr. Nikki Ho is the proprietor there, and I'll tell you what, she is the hardest working pharmacist you ever meet. The pharmacy is on the corner of Indian Hill Boulevard and Arrow Highway. She does have the vaccines and the boosters. She gave me my booster, and I hope you'll get yours too. You know, this is serious. This last week I did some funerals. Tuesday, the woman was 51 years old and a great lady. And she leaves behind some really loving people, including a son who's developmentally disabled, who said to his uncle, "I'm all alone now. I don't have anyone." Folks, please, if you call yourself a Christian, put on a mask. Get vaccinated. There's a reason God gave us doctors. Make use of it. I'm tired. And we can do something about this. But you got to put on your big boy and big girl pants and start acting like an adult who cares about someone other than yourself. Okay? That's enough said about that. And while we're talking about things of cheer, I want to tell you about the best DJ service that you'll find anywhere on the West Coast, and probably all the way to Mississippi if you ask me, but no one's asking me right now. And that is lakesidedjservices.com. And you know our beloved Frank, who runs the sound here, and I wouldn't sound good if he didn't make me sound good. And so if you're looking for someone for a special occasion, absolutely, you'll be thrilled that you hired lakesidedjservices.com. And he also has photo booths, and they are a lot of fun. And he doesn't just have a couple of things there, big sunglasses. He has the whole deal. And you can get it really creative. You'll leave there and you'll have a smile on your face and say, you know what, that was really fun. So yeah, lakesidedjservices.com. And I want to remind you of Justice Matters. My friend Glenn Kirshner, who was a federal prosecutor for a quarter century, basically, and before that he was a attorney in the United States Army. He was a JAG attorney on the prosecution side. He was a prosecutor. But he's as honest as the day is long, and if he says something, you can count on it. We're good friends, so we fact-check each other because we care about each other. Because if either one of us says something and it wasn't factually true, we let each other know so we don't keep saying something that's not right. And he's at 99%. Nobody's at 100%, but you know what? He's as close as I've seen anyone get. And in that 1% where he did goof, he came back and said, you know what? I found out that wasn't completely right. I had part of that wrong. Let me tell you what I learned. So if you want some real integrity, find him on YouTube, Justice Matters. And if you like what you find, you can. He'll tell you how you can support. It's an all-volunteer thing. He doesn't make a penny doing this. It's all volunteer. He just loves this country, and he's trying to do his part to put love into action. So, Glenn, if you're listening, God bless you, and thank you for everything you do. You're terrific. Now, I told Frank I was going to do something really, really naughty tonight because what happened yesterday, I had a tough day, but more than anything, I went to Best Buy in Montclair. And usually that's a good store. It wasn't so yesterday. And I'll tell you why. I'm trying to get this piece of equipment I'm going to need for a retreat I have for next month. Someone was kind enough to send me an anonymous gift, financial gift. I put a bill, I won't tell you how much because I just don't do that. But it was enough for this piece of equipment. And I didn't tell anybody I needed this, but, God takes care of us. And so I'm trying to get help over there. And for a whole half hour, I'm waving at people. I'm saying, excuse me, excuse me. And I mean, this one lady goes by me twice. This one guy is standing not even 7 feet from me. And I'm waving my arms. I'm waving at him. And I'm saying, excuse me. Excuse me. He would not look up to save his life. So I finally go to the front of the store. And I see someone there. And I said, I'd sure like to get some help. I brought some money. I'd like to spend it. And that got his attention. So he says, oh, how can I help you? I told him what I wanted. So we're going over there. And as we start out, I'm telling him my experience. I said, including this lady right here who is there by the front now, fooling around with some boxes. And I said, yeah, I'm talking about you. You passed me twice. And I tried to get your help, and you just blew me off. Even when I waved at you and everything, you just looked at me like, oh, poor old man. So we get over to where this piece of equipment is. This is going somewhere. And that one guy who kept blowing me off was still there doing some of the stuff. And I didn't know this guy was the manager. I said, does the manager know about this stuff? He says, I am the manager. I said, well, out of all fairness, I want you to know I have a radio show, and I'm going to begin the show by sharing my experience. I said, may I know your name? He says, I really don't want my last name on the air. I said, no, that's fair. What's your first name? So his name's Brian, and Brian was very helpful. Brian, thank you. You really, what does that guy say? You did me a kindness. And I'm going to sell RVs after this. And, some of you know what I'm talking about. It's a great joke. And so I said, watch this. And we're standing next to each other. And I'm waving like mad at this guy. We did this for 10 minutes, me waving at the guy standing 7 feet from us, facing our direction. And I'm saying, excuse me, excuse me. And so finally, I yelled, hey. I'm not going to yell through the microphone because I don't want anyone who wears hearing aids, I would be blasting you, and that wouldn't be funny. That would be painful. I won't do that to you. And the guy finally looks up, and he sees his manager standing there. And I said, he's been here with me. I said, correct me if I'm wrong, for at least 10 minutes, maybe 15. And I've been waving my arms at you, and I showed him what I was doing. And I turned to the manager and said, is that correct? He says, that's absolutely correct. I said, and you wouldn't even look up. What do you have to say for yourself? And the manager was really, really embarrassed and very upset, I could see. I said, if you want to write them up, I'll sign it for you right now. I'll put my signature on it with yours. He says, I'll take care of this. I said, well, here's my card for the radio show so you can let your corporate know what's going to happen, because I don't want them to get blindsided, because you guys are usually pretty good. I mean, I come to the store for most of my electronic stuff, especially now that Fry's, the king of all electronics, is now closed. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but I'm in mourning because you get your best electronic equipment at Fry's, and they are no more. I feel like I should be lighting a candle for them. So that's the docks going up. And I just want to give you a heads up. If you're going to that store, I recommend going to Rancho Cucamonga or Chino. Or if you go in there, say, I'm a friend of Father John from Viewpoint with Father John on KCAA radio, and he wants me to make sure that you help me, meaning help you. So we're in this together, kids. See what happens when you mess with the Irish. There's two things that we never lose: a bottle and a grudge. So this is our last show of the year, so I'm having a little bit of fun with it. I'll be honest with you. I can't believe that 2021 is about to end, and it's been a crazy year, hasn't it, folks? We've been through a lot together. We've had to learn new ways of spirituality this year. At least I have, because I didn't have any of the things I normally had. Everything was on Zoom, basically, and thank God for Zoom. I mean, that has really been a lifesaver, because some of the people I've been in touch with, including with my counseling practice, I see all my clients on Zoom, and we stay safe. But maybe in 2022, we'll get to see each other again, because I miss some of these people. I mean, I get to have lunch once in a while with some people that I love dearly, but now in this county, San Bernardino County, just announced that they recommend we all stay home and not meet at restaurants or anything right now, because the uptick of this latest variant of the COVID virus is worse than anything we ever had. I was looking at the charts, and they color code If you have a certain amount and it's just counted up, it's yellow, this other color for this. Red was for epidemic and out of hand, and it was solid red across the entire United States of America. There was no place that wasn't covered in the red. What does that tell us? It says this is these, doesn't care if you are a Republican or Democrat or independent, or if you don't vote at all. They don't care. It doesn't care what religion you are. You know what was that thing that we old guys get? Shingles. That commercial for shingles where it says shingles doesn't care. Well, kids, COVID doesn't care. So yeah, we've been through a lot this last year, and I'm hoping that this year we can learn about kindness. We can learn about loving each other. We can get back to being America. The way we used to care about each other. I'm not the oldest guy in the world, but I'm getting close. And I can remember when I grew up in Ontario, California, when we actually reached out to one another. Our neighbors, we all knew each other. I've been living in the same apartment complex for about 5 years now. And I know the people by sight. I know the names of just maybe 3 or 4 of them. And I'm not saying that's, I'm not blaming anybody because I'm on the other end of that as well. I'm in that equation. I try to get to know them, but it's not like it used to be. It used to be that, you need a set of pliers. You just went next door to Hank, and Hank would say, yeah, come on out to the garage. And I had a neighbor like that. And I was so impressed with this guy because he had one of those cork tool boards by his work table, and everything was outlined. So you knew where each wrench, each hammer, each tool went. I mean, if you took something and you put it on the workbench, he would look at you. He says, I don't see a drawing of that on the workbench. And he'd look up at the wall, and you knew, put it back where you got it from. He only had to do that with me once, and I picked up pretty quick. I can be a quick study when I need to be, and he wasn't mean. Everything, there's a place for everything, and everything has its place. That's what he said to me directly after that. I think I was 6, and you can see, I still remember it made a big impression. So we're going to go to commercial. When we come back, I have a neat thing I want to share with you from one of my spiritual heroes, Leah Delico. I'll get it by the time we get back. My dementia is kicking my backside tonight. You're listening to Viewpoint with Father John.
It's time to shop in the cool, relaxed comfort of the Tri-City Shopping Center in Redlands, conveniently located on the I-10 freeway between the Alabama and Tennessee exits. Bring the kids too and watch them play in the only indoor fun center, High Five Indoor Playground, where parents are welcomed on the playground. Birthday celebrations are encouraged, so make plans for some great fun at the mall. More reasons why the Tri-City Center is called the Mall with a Heart.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org, www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
And welcome back. You're tuned to NBC Radio, KCAA. I got to the wrong page. 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, where you can listen from anywhere in the world at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I'm having a crazy night tonight. Uh, tell you the truth, folks, what's going on is the disease progression. I've reached the next level, the next stage, which the dementia is really hitting me hard. So tonight you're going to hear a lot of gaffes, and I don't mean to. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be a jerk, and I hope you be patient with me. You might even hear me, excuse me, a little emotional. I was telling Gabby last night, I've never been scared. I'm scared. So excuse the emotion that's coming out. I told Frank that when I went from Best Buy, I went to Target, and then once I came out of there, I had to drive for 20 minutes to figure out how to get out of the parking lot. There wasn't a lot of cars there. I just was lost with the dementia. So prayers. Sorry. That's why the Irish drink, so we don't have to feel these things. I was stupid enough to become a non-drinker. You know how tough it is being an Irish priest when you don't drink? Good Lord. Okay, I'm getting it together, kids. Leah Delio is one of my spiritual heroes. And I want to read this writing from them because I think it's really prophetic. And it's what I'm currently trying to learn this moment. So, we'll see if I can still read. Not that I could read that well before, you know. Being dyslexic, you never know what I'm going to see on the page. I think one time I was reading the services and I accidentally opened with a closing prayer because I get everything backwards. Okay, I'll quit stalling. Here's what I want to share with you, and I hope this has meaning for you. I'm going to read it twice, just so that you're aware. It's a couple of paragraphs. The wise person travels the earth as if in a dark room. One walks slowly, carefully, touching each object to experience it and know it. The wise person takes nothing for granted and lives in creation with wonder, awe, humility, thankfulness, and receptivity to goodness as the essence of being itself. The wise person lives from an inner depth of love. Such a person does not simply accept life as a given, but anticipates each moment as a new creation. Wow, that's powerful. Let me read it again to you, because I don't know if you need this now, but this just hit me. I remember reading this back in 2016, which is just, a couple months ago. For me now, that is, the beauty of dementia. So here we go again. And it's Ilya Delio. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm having trouble getting those words out tonight. Well, I do know why. The wise person travels the earth as if in a dark room. One walks slowly, carefully, touching each object to experience it and know it. Boy, could you imagine how marriage would be? I'm sorry, I know I broke up the reading, but could you imagine what our relationships would be like if we practiced this with the people we're supposed to be in love with? So I'll start again, but keep that thought as I'm reading this, please. The wise person travels the earth as if in a dark room. One walks slowly, carefully, touching each object to experience it and know it. The wise person takes nothing for granted and lives in creation with wonder, awe, humility, thankfulness, and receptivity to goodness as the essence of being itself. The wise person lives from an inner depth of love. Such a person does not simply accept life as a given, but anticipates each moment as a new creation. boy, I don't know about you, but that just tugs at everything in me. I mean, it gets me emotional. That's probably why I shouldn't have read it before going on the air, right? I thought, well, I'm going to read this a couple times, and I haven't been able to keep the tears back since because it's so prophetic. And the writer wasn't trying to be prophetic. They were just writing their thought, what came through their meditation. And I am a big fan of this particular author. I've read many of their things, and I hope this entices you to do the same. And as we go into this next year, this is going to be my credo. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm going to do it perfectly. A credo isn't something you've done perfectly. A credo is something you strive toward. And I hope you will hold me accountable. And for those of you I know, if you want, I'll hold you accountable as well. That doesn't mean meanness. And those of you know me, you know that's not what it means. It means that we lovingly remind us of something that was very important to us. This is important to me. Because it seems we have forgotten who we are. There was a scene in Hook, the movie Hook. Robin Williams was in it, and Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman played Captain Hook. And I know who was the Tinkerbell. Oh my goodness! When I was in college, every guy had a crush on her, and now I can't think of her name. And I'll wake up tonight and I'll say the name, and Gabby will roll over and slap me. Who are you talking about? In the middle of the night. But anyhow, at one point, Robin Williams as Peter Pan. He's an adult now. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, and I hope you'll go see it, it's worth it. It has such great metaphysical truth in it. It's incredible. And he's talking about his life now as an attorney and the big shot he is, and all these things, and how he's tackling these big real estate deals and going after this corporation and that. And then Miss Wendy just looks at him and says, "Why, Peter, you've forgotten who you are." I remember where I was when I saw that. I was in the theater in the mall in Pomona, California. The mall's kind of, well, they're trying to make it, it's an indoor swap meet now, and they're trying to refurbish it. But and I was sitting next to one of my dearest friends, Dr. Carlo Di Giovanna, who's a minister in the area. And sometimes when I would close my practice towards the end of the week, and he was getting ready to take a little time off from his church, we just go hang out, have dinner, and sometimes catch a movie, or we're just best friends. And so we were seeing that movie together. And when that line came over, "Why, Peter, you've forgotten who you are," I turned to Carlo, and he turned to me at the same time. And it's like we both said it at this exact moment. We said, "Truth. We have forgotten who we are." And not to be smart against anyone else, but we had realized we too had forgotten who we are. And right now we're struggling with that in America. We have forgotten who we are. Who are we? We're people who care. We're people that on the plaque on the Statue of Liberty really believe in those ideals. We are a country that loves immigrants. Now, we have some people that have forgotten who we are. We are a country that love the ones who need help, the ones who are trying to have a new experience of freedom. Are we perfect? No. We're also on the other side of that, we're the country that loves slavery, and parts of us still do. We haven't gotten past that. There's parts of us that have forgotten that we're all God's children. And so right now we have a really strong movement of white nationalists. That's not who we are, but that's part of our history. And as wise people always continue to say, people much wiser than me, if we don't know our history, we're condemned to repeat it. Now, you've heard me say this, and those of you who have read my book, Close Your Eyes So You Can See Me, you've read it in my book, that I often say that until we learn our lesson from the experience, we must re-experience the lesson But when history repeats itself, the price goes up. And the price is pretty high right now, don't you think? And so, my fellow Americans, I almost said my fellow Peters, and I realized that wouldn't come off the way I meant it. I meant as Peter Pan in this movie. Steve Sweeney, stop it. I can hear you laughing, and you're Covina. he's a dear friend and a loyal listener of the show. At least he was till just now. So, but we've forgotten who we are. I've forgotten who I am. We think who we are is the car that we drive. We think who we are is the person on our arm. We think who we are is by the toys, or where we live, or the color of our skin, or the name of our religion, or our particular church. God knows us, we know God, and that's all God knows. And we know that because we know everything about God. Now, you hear how crazy that sounds, just when I'm saying it. Why, Peter, you have forgotten who you are. You have forgotten that innocent little child, that playfulness, that thing that may be a little bit mischievous, but it's not meant to hurt anyone, but because life is exciting, it's an adventure, and you want other people to come play and enjoy the adventure that you are the captain of this ship. You may be the captain, but God's the admiral. And a good captain always knows to follow what the admiral says. And what does the admiral say? In our case, my admiral says, they will know you're my disciples by how you love one another. Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep. So, if we are going to survive, this is not hyperbole. If we are going to survive as a nation, we need to get back to discovering who we are. Who we really are, not this other crazy stuff. I was going through a report earlier this last week, and we have now lost our vision in the world setting, our status, thank you, in the world setting of being a democracy. On the world stage, we're no longer considered a democracy, but a country that is on the verge of a civil war. Much closer than most of us realized. I knew that we had some crazy stuff going on. I really did. And I have been concerned. But I have enough faith in us as a country and as a people that I thought, well, we'll get through this. It's uncomfortable. It hurts like heck. And we're going to look back on someday and say, this is what happened when they put fluoride in the water. I mean that jokingly. But we're very close to civil war. Do you understand how nuts that is? Americans are killing Americans, particularly over a lie that's been spread over the last year. And I don't care if you agree with me or not. It's not my opinion. It's a fact. And that's one of the things we've lost. We no longer know the difference between a talking point and a fact. We think talking points are factual. They're not. They're talking points. Look, I have a lot of friends that are politicians on both sides of the aisle. And, we oftentimes talk about the difference between talking points and facts. I'm talking about the sane ones. Right now, we have a lot of them that are insane. Now, this isn't a political show, but you know what? I'm also not going to skirt the issue that we have a real problem. Look at what happened this week with this guy who calls up the President of the United States, the legitimate President of the United States, who was doing the Santa tracking, a very kind thing, trying to help the kids have a great Christmas. It was a beautiful thing. And then the guy says, let's go, Brandon. Seriously? If you think that's okay, and you're hearing my voice, I want you to hear this. You're not okay. Get help. You're not okay. There's something very, very wrong and evil what you're thinking. I don't care what party you belong to. We're Americans first. And if you dare call yourself a Christian, I stopped calling myself a Christian because of what it means now. Now it means white supremacist that says one thing while hating everybody else, while ripping people off and beating up people who don't have the same color skin. That's not what Jesus gave us. So now I just call myself a follower of the teachings of Christ Jesus, my Lord, Savior, and Rabbi. And some of you may be offended by that, and I hope you are, because maybe it'll wake you up and you get back to, who we are. Because Peter, you've forgotten who you are. And if we can all start to wake up, not by slapping each other awake, but by nudging each other awake in a loving fashion. And remember that while we're not perfect, we have some incredible ideals. When both Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush talked about being a shining city on a hill, I can hardly say that without tears welling up in my throat, because it's such a genuine statement, such a beautiful statement. And what made us that was the fact that we helped other countries. You know why we were generous? Because we've been blessed with so much. But what we've done is we've let some this is why you have to keep religion out of politics. We let some con artists and the evangelical movement that just want power, and they know if they say one word, abortion or anything like that, now they have you. Never mind the fact that they're killing people, never mind the fact that they're ripping people off on a daily basis. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What you are speaks so loud, I cannot hear what you're saying." So let's get back to who we really are. Let's get back to helping each other. Let's get back to not having to brag about what our faith is, but when people have been with us and they leave, they realize that they've had an experience with God, not because we're personally God, but because we shared the love of God with them, and they felt the presence because they didn't feel that they were abused. They felt that they were welcomed, that you really saw them. In India, they do something that I think is so powerful. Now, I've talked about this on the show, but it touches me deeply, and I think we need to learn from what they're doing. The Hindus really have this right. They look at each other in the eye, and they say, "I see you." I'm looking at Frank right now through the glass. And when I say to Frank, "I see you," I'm not just talking about his face. If Frank had his microphone on right now, he could tell you that I'm looking eye to eye with him. And I see you. I see the Christ Spirit behind your eyes. I see the being that was you before you had a face, as they say in Buddhism. I see the love of God. I see you. And he's looking back saying, "I think you drank too much tonight." I haven't been drinking. But the fact of the matter is, we need to start seeing each other again. We stop looking at each other. I mean, get what I'm saying. I'm not saying, physically, we see each other, physically. We stopped seeing each other. We stopped hearing each other. So one more time before we go to commercial break. The wise person travels the earth as if in a dark room. One walks slowly, carefully, touching every object to experience it and know it. The wise person takes nothing for granted and lives in creation with wonder, awe, humility, thankfulness, and receptivity to goodness as the essence of being itself. The wise person lives from an inner depth of love. Such a person does not simply accept life as a given, but anticipates each moment as a new creation. Well, as we go to commercial break, I hope you'll think about those words. And then when we come back, let's all tie it all together as we once again discover who we are as people of love.
It's time to shop in the cool, relaxed comfort of the Tri-City Shopping Center in Redlands, conveniently located on the I-10 freeway between the Alabama and Tennessee exits. Bring the kids too and watch them play in the only indoor fun center. High Five Indoor Playground, where parents are welcomed on the playground. Birthday celebrations are encouraged, so make plans for some great fun at the mall. More reasons why the Tri-City Center is called the Mall with a Heart.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personal funeral planning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
And welcome back. You're tuned to NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or you can tune in from anywhere around the world at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reed, and I want to give a special thanks to Frank. You've been on the show over 2 years now, and that means you've been here half the time. And I've been here half the time mentally from the beginning. And I had a friend say he would never refer to me as a dimwit. I said, really? He said, yeah, you're not that bright. You're a halfwit. Oh, can you feel the love? So you got to have a little fun, kids. You got to have a little fun. I know this has been a pretty serious show tonight, an emotional show for me. This stuff just hit me within the last few days. So we're adjusting. But I'm keeping my word. When I was first diagnosed, I promised you I would take you on this trip with me and that I would be honest with you about what I'm experiencing. And many of you have been very loving and walking this with me. Over the last few days, I've received so many private messages from people just loving on me. That's who we are. That's who we have forgotten. Now, there's people that heavily disagree with me. That's okay, But they were sending their love. Because, you see, we're more than opinions. We're the children of God. And when I say that we're the children of God, I don't just mean Christians. I mean everyone. We are children of the one God expressed through many religions. If you think of the oxymoron of this, I kind of kick back a little bit and laugh a little bit for you watching on monitor. We say there's one God. And then we say, but nobody else has the God. But if there's only one God, how could anyone not have that one God? Now, they may see it in different expressions, and that's cool. That is really cool. I mean, we were what's called a monotheistic religion. There's three monotheistic religions. It's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. We're all children of Abraham, for God's sake. We got to start getting along, and we have to stop letting the professional dividers divide us as though we as though we're violent towards each other. You know what? The real teachings of all three of these religions, are based in love and peace and service. Now you're probably saying, oh no, I heard this about Muslims. I read the Quran, have you? And with other religions, I've read the Bhagavad Gita. Long book, big book, much bigger than ours. Have you? I didn't just get a PhD in this stuff because I wanted to have a PhD. The reason I went for higher studies is I couldn't learn enough because this is so big and there's so many traditions of wisdom. And that's why I read books from all people from all different backgrounds because they see things from their point of view that I don't see, and I see things from my point of view that they may not have seen. And the idea is for us to come together and say, what did you see on the trip? You know, when you go on a cruise with people, when you come back and someone says, oh, I saw this, do you say to them, that doesn't exist, you couldn't see it? You couldn't see it because I didn't see it. No, you say, that's cool. Did you bring pictures? Let me show you what I saw. And you share how much fun you had. Well, I truly believe that when my time comes, and kids, it's getting close, I'll be honest with you. I think I'm going to be asked 2 questions. 1, did you learn to love? Now, loving doesn't mean that you are a Pollyanna. I think people confuse that. Sometimes when you love a lot, you hurt a lot, and sometimes you get angry a lot because you see things that hurt. And anger comes from hurt. And anger comes from fear. And sometimes the fear is that these people may not, in their ignorance, ever wake up to the fact if they're hurting somebody. And does that scare me? Yes. Yes. I've done things I didn't realize I was hurting somebody until somebody, enlightened soul, said, you know, Father John, I don't know if you know this, but when you said this person over here that really hurt them deeply. And I didn't see anything hurtful in what I said. I didn't see it, but they sure did. And I was glad that this other person loves me enough and loves this other person enough to say, you know, I don't know if you saw this, but I did, and I thought you'd like to be aware of it. And I was so grateful because I was able to go to that other person and say, you know, I'm sorry. I didn't think of all the ways that this can be heard or interpreted. And the way that I said it, I can see inflicted pain on you, and that I never wanted to do that. Can you help me learn how to better word this? You don't have to agree with me, but help me to learn how to say it without drawing blood on somebody with my opinion. That's what it's about. So, you know, being loving and being a caring person, and particularly if those of us who say we try to follow Jesus, notice I use the word try. It's a tough thing. Some days I do good, some days I don't even come close because I'm human, just like you. And in this effort, in this love, we're going to have things that are important. You know, what would you think if you know, we have the police force and you see a child getting abused and the cop refuses to get involved because for him to put the person in handcuffs might look like they're not loving. Now, you may say that that's extreme, but think about that. Is it so extreme? Isn't that kind of what we're kind of doing right now? What we've been talking about in our society is not love, it's prejudice. And it's an act. And I'm guilty of it too. And it's funny because, you know, I get in little talks because, you know, I'm huge into social justice. If you don't know that by now, you're enjoying the whiskey too much during the show. And you need to share some of that. But I lost my dementia just jumped in there. When something needs to be done to protect somebody else, we do it. We can't be Pollyanna and say that we love. We have to love deeply enough to be honest. Oh, I remember where I was going with it. That I get people who, because they have a difference of opinion, they'll send me a note saying, you say you're a priest, you're a fraud because you said this. And because, you know, some of them, because I in the social justice world, I've stood up for things. You know, when we were separating children from their parents at the border, if you don't think I stood up, you're crazy. Some of you know I stood up because you saw me on the news. I was standing up. I could barely stand up myself with my illness, but you darn right I was there. And I had people just hating on me, just saying, well, yeah, you know, you're an awful priest. All right. Maybe I am. I'm in no position to judge. I'm on the inside of this thing, and my ego doesn't let me see me for who I really am. You know, I'm three people. I don't know if you know this. I'm three people. I'm the person that you see, I'm the person that I see, and then I'm the person that I really am. And sometimes the other two never get to see the last one. So I acknowledge that. But they get mad because I say something about what I see is a real travesty, and you know, I can back it up with Scripture. You know how we like to back everything up with Scripture. You know, better that you have a millstone around your neck and be thrown into the river than to harm a little child. Look it up. It's there. Look for the red letters. So, yes, that was being a smart aleck. In case you missed it, I want to get full credit. And you're darn right I'd better stand up for these kids, or I'm not who I say I am. I'm just a guy in a funny shirt, you know, didn't know how to tie a tie, so I put on a priest collar instead. It was much easier. I just slide the little tab in. And so that's a joke for those who didn't get that. And so I had people saying, because I corrected them and said things and tried to educate, that I was a bad priest. Because I should just be Pollyanna and just love and say nice things and go through life and never be disagreeable or disagree. Jesus went into the temple and turned over the money changers' tables and made whips out of cords and chased them out of the temple. Why? Because people were being abused by the money changers. Where they set up their tables was where the Samaritans went to pray. And they knew that area belonged to the Samaritans, so they set up their money changing tables there because you had to change things for the money stuff in the temple. So I guess it's sort of like bingo in our church. Just kidding. And Jesus was enraged. How dare you not let them go to their place of prayer? And so he turned over their tables, made whips out of cords, and chased them out. Not because he was mean, because he hurt so deeply for the Samaritan who was being looked down on and hated on and not being allowed to go to their place of worship. Think about this, brothers and sisters. Do you have a place of worship that means a lot to you, where you feel very close to God when you're in there? I mean, God's everywhere we are, but there's some places we really feel close to God. Now imagine somebody in front of the door saying, you can't go in there because I disagree with how you believe. Not good. So if you wouldn't want that done to you, why would you support anyone doing that for somebody else? Peter, you've forgotten who you are. And so in 2022, let's have a rediscovery and find out who we are. By the way, at the end of that movie, Hook, Robin Williams rediscovered who Peter Pan was, and he found his happy place, his kids. Folks, you're part of my happy place. Even the ones that disagree with me. I will admit, I'm Irish, so I sometimes have fun with it. I do enjoy irritating some people, yeah, and you know that about me. You know that about me. You know, I'm fun, I'm loving, and I'm a knucklehead. You know, it's a whole package thing. I'm a walking contradiction. That's life. That's life. Study nature. It just cracks me up. All the contradictions. And one day it became clear to me, oh, this whole world's a contradiction, and the idea is for us to discover it and appreciate both. So Frank's waving at me through the window saying, you got 3 minutes. God, that reminds me of my honeymoon. And so, did I use my microphone when I said that? I'm sorry. I was mixing drinks. And so, anyhow, let's go back to remembering who we are. Let's come back to loving each other. Let's come back to being able to agree to disagree and not calling one bad for it. Let's come back to realizing that we can be the greatest country of the world, as we have been for so long, because we remembered that we need to love one another. We also need to clean our room. We got to pick up the trash and we got to throw it out. And, and anything that's about hate, that's the trash. And we can't be healthy if we don't sanitize. When they talk about the fires of Haiti, that's actually a place. And that's where they burn the trash. And the fire never goes out. But it's not for punishment, it's a purification process. I want you to hear that. It's not a punishment, it's a purification process. So we're going through our purification right now. And we're at the end of 2021. And we're feeling the heat of things that we got to, for the sake of sanitation and integrity, that we got to clean up. We got to take some trash out. We got to burn some things. And I'm not talking about buildings. I'm talking about our actions. And let's go into 2022 together. And let's start this new year with a new level of love and caring for one another. Next week, one of my best friends, Dr. John Smith, will be here with me because you know how much we like to work together. And that's why I wanted him to help us start the new year with us. And I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I hope you had a healthy Hanukkah and a blessed Kwanzaa. Most of all, if no one told you this week that they love you, let me be the first. We'll be back next week, and Happy New Year.